You worthless poor person without money, divorce is what you get. Saying this, David left after putting down the divorce papers. I stared blankly at the divorce papers from my hospital bed. I had indeed suspected it for some time. But still, to think he was actually cheating. And he decided to dump me because I got pregnant and couldn't earn money while hospitalized? Mom? I looked up, startled by my dear son's voice, and there stood Alex and my father. My father frowned upon seeing what I was holding. What are you going to do? It's decided. I pushed myself to be discharged from the hospital early, and I headed to the bank where David was. My father, who had driven me there, said, "Hang in there," and left me in front of the bank and drove away. As I entered the bank, David, noticing me, frowned. Coincidentally, there were no other customers in front of him. I walked straight toward David. "I'm going to close all the company accounts." "What?" "Let's show him whose daughter he angered." As David paled, I smiled slyly. "I am Lindsay Johnson, a 32-year-old corporate executive and mother of one. I have a 7-year-old son, Alex, and a husband, David. David and I met at a mixer held by a mutual friend during our college years. At the time, we were not particularly interested in each other, and just exchanged contact information." "Hey, weren't you at the mixer with Lindsay, right?" "David?" "The following year, by chance, I used the bank where he worked, and we reconnected. This led to us frequently staying in touch, and eventually, we started dating. Then, after I got pregnant with Alex, we got married." David was known for his serious and meticulous work. Because of this, our friends envied us. I, too, was glad to have married him. "Mom, why is this happening?" "Just wait a moment, honey. Mom doesn't know the details yet, but I'll find out." "Okay." Perhaps Alex inherited his traits from David. He is studious and highly curious. He constantly asks, "What's this? Why is this?" So, I also find myself constantly learning. Surprisingly, Alex admires not David but my father. My mother passed away from illness, and my father, who was busy with work, raised me single-handedly. "Sorry, but I really can't stand your father." "Well, it can't be helped, but don't tell him that. He's actually quite sensitive about it." "I wouldn't say that. My father is a kind person, but he looks tough and rather scary." David is uncomfortable around my father's intimidating appearance. Knowing this, my father tries not to interfere too much. That's why, at first, we were able to lead a peaceful life. A smooth-sailing life. However, that changed abruptly after we got married. "Hey, where did you put my smartphone?" "Don't talk like that." "Isn't it still charging?" David grumbled first thing in the morning. Actually, David's phone had been plugged into the charger since before he went to bed. Instead of an apology or thanks, he clicked his tongue in irritation, which frustrated me even more. David has changed since we got married. He often says, "I'm an elite banker. You live a comfortable life because of me." However, David doesn't contribute financially at home. He spends his entire salary on himself, yet acts as if he is the one supporting our household. In reality, I am the one who supports our family's finances. I pay for the utilities and the groceries. "Hey, what's with these new clothes?" "They're for Alex. His old clothes are too small now." "Don't spend my money on luxuries. I'm spending my own salary. I don't even have access to your bank account. Yet, whenever I take Alex out for a meal or buy him new clothes on weekends, David immediately complains. It seems he dislikes any minor luxuries we indulge in. On the other hand, my father is someone who doesn't hesitate to spend money for us. Isn't the current apartment too cramped? That's why I bought the condominium that David wanted to live in. I can be nearby without living together. With a smile, he bought the condominium and gifted us the top floor. And he lives on a different floor in the same building, so he can help us in times of need. Mom, can I go to Grandpa's place? Of course, but don't stay too late just because it's the same building. Come back before it gets dark. Okay. It's no wonder Alex is closer to his grandfather than to his father, David. Whenever he has time, Alex goes to my father. Where's Alex? He's with Grandpa. Interestingly, David never complains about my father. Also, he seems to refrain from saying anything about Alex to my father. Perhaps worrying about being reported. It's only towards me that he's assertive. Certainly, I keep quiet to avoid troubling my father. Well, if it's just complaints, I can ignore them. I used to think lightly of it. Because of this, David does not participate at all in parenting. I've been called by Maggie, so I'm going out. Again? The one taking away his parenting time is David's childhood friend, Maggie Hill. I don't just dislike her, I detest her. David and I are like siblings. So, please don't get the wrong idea. She always says that whenever we meet. Yet, she keeps claiming that she knows David better from their past, which is annoying. My mother-in-law also dotes on Maggie, which complicates things further. Why didn't David choose Maggie instead of that woman? He should have married her. Whenever I'm called to my in-laws' house, she deliberately makes such comments within my hearing. Although my father-in-law scolds her, she doesn't seem to care. Maggie claims to be a natural airhead. I'm naturally ditzy, so I tend to rely on David. I don't mean to make you uncomfortable, Lindsay. That might be excusable if she were younger. However, she is 28 years old. It's high time she acted her age. The reason the two never got together is because of my father-in-law's presence. I don't even want to call that woman my daughter-in-law by any stretch. If you insist, I'll divorce you. Maggie is hardly a good person. She flirts a lot and lives an unemployed life, asking David to buy whatever she wants. My father-in-law detested Maggie and strongly opposed their relationship. I couldn't understand why my mother-in-law adored Maggie so much. I'm sorry about my wife. You don't need to apologize for this. David too. He doesn't defend his wife when she is insulted, instead. He's friendly with such a woman. True to my father-in-law's words, David never defends me from what my mother-in-law says. Sometimes, he even laughs about it. Grandma, why would you say that? If Mom hadn't met Dad, I wouldn't have been born. Am I an unwanted child to you? No, that's not true at all. Alex always stands up for me. He may not understand how children are made, but he knows that it requires both parents. Since my mother-in-law adores her brilliant grandson, she refrains from making such comments in front of Alex. It seems David and my mother-in-law are alike, making me realize how parents and children often resemble each other. I have plans to drink with Maggie tonight, so I'll be home late. Oh, really? Gradually, I began to wonder if we really needed David at all, and I decided to prepare for a divorce. Alex seemed to sense something was up. If there's anything I can help with, just let me know. He said this, showing his concern for me. Just then, I was summoned by my mother-in-law. I really didn't want to go, but she kept calling non-stop, to the point it would affect my work if I didn't. My husband isn't here right now and there's no one to carry heavy stuff. So, could you buy some rice? It turned out my father-in-law was on a business trip. I thought to myself that she could just order it online, but saying that would only lead to more noise. After work, I was exhausted from carrying heavy items. While I was distracted and heading to the apartment, my body was thrown by a car. Apparently, a car that ran a red light hit me. The car that hit you fled the scene, and we are currently investigating. I was informed of this while lying in the hospital bed. For now, I left Alex in the care of my father and had to stay in the hospital for a while. I had broken my arm and couldn't work properly. Worried about this, my father scolded me, saying, "First, worry about your own health." Alex and my father-in-law, who hurried back after hearing about the incident, frequently visited me. But David and my mother-in-law didn't visit at all. Well, that was within my expectations. "I'm coming in." What? So I was surprised when David came into the hospital room. "Here, sign this," he said as he put a divorce paper in front of me. David's name was already on it, and my mother-in-law's name was in the witness section. "With that arm, you can't work. Now that you can't earn money, you're useless to me." What is that supposed to mean? Also, Maggie is pregnant with my child. I was stunned by his words. Maggie pregnant with David's child. I'm going to marry Maggie. So just sign this quickly. Saying this, David turned his back on me quickly, as if to say he had no more use for me. "You worthless poor person without money, divorce is what you get." Saying that, David placed the divorce papers on the table and left. I stared blankly at the divorce papers from my hospital bed. I had been suspecting it for a while. But still, to actually have been cheating. And he's throwing me away because I got pregnant and can't earn money while hospitalized? "Mom?" Startled by my precious son's voice, I looked up to find Alex and my father standing there. My father frowned upon seeing what I was holding. "What are you going to do?" "It's decided," I answered, looking straight at my father, who nodded in agreement. "Now, let's retaliate." I asked to be discharged from the hospital a bit early and headed to the bank where David was. My father, who drove me there, said, "Hang in there," and dropped me off in front of the bank before heading off. As I entered the bank, David noticed me and frowned. By chance, there were no other customers in front of him. I approached him directly. "I'm going to cancel all the company accounts." "What?" David's expression read as if he was saying, "What are you talking about?" I hadn't even taken a number and just walked up to the counter, which seemed to annoy some of the people there. "Oh, my apologies. Perhaps you don't recognize the company name." "What are you?" "I am Lindsay Thompson, recently appointed president of Thompson Corporation, originally founded by my father." "What?" Thompson Corporation is an IT company that my father started, now employing 1,900 people. It has grown rapidly in a single generation and is quite well known in this area and in the industry. So, David was visibly shocked. "That's a lie, right? You're just trying to get back at me. Why don't you check if you think so?" David immediately started checking something on his phone. My maiden name, Thompson, may be common. That's why my father named the company after our surname. While David was busy checking, I looked around. Having mentioned the company name, the surroundings started to take notice of our situation. "Ah. No way, is it true?" It seemed he had confirmed it. David cautiously looked up at me. "Are you really from that Thompson Corporation? Let's show him whose daughter he angered." Unlike David, who turned pale, I smirked. "So, please proceed with the cancellation quickly." "Wait, you can't just suddenly. If you cancel this many accounts at once. By the way, my father is quite angry about this whole situation. Pack up your things and move out of the apartment." "What? Why do I have to move out?" It seems he had forgotten that the apartment was purchased by my father, who is also listed as the owner. Well, otherwise he wouldn't have brought Maggie in while I was hospitalized and still be living there. Forgotten? That apartment was purchased by my father, the former president. You haven't contributed a single penny, let alone, you haven't even been paying for living expenses. Have you? All your money has been going to your childhood friend and lover, Maggie. In fact, you've been living off my salary. Whose earnings have you been living off, I wonder? That's. And now, because she's pregnant, you expect me to hand over the apartment to you and your lover? How much more do you intend to mock me? I said it loud enough for everyone around to hear. Naturally, David was flustered. David Johnson has always been known for his seriousness. Yet, at home, he doesn't contribute financially and cheats with his childhood friend. The looks from those around us turn cold. Is what you said true? What? The person addressing me was the branch manager of this bank. He had been here for a while and had overheard our conversation. It seems I need to have a detailed discussion with you. I'm very sorry for the behavior of our bank employee. Then, the branch manager apologized. I was led to a back room where the discussion continued among the three of us. David, the branch manager, and myself. There, I explained everything in detail to the branch manager. I deeply apologize for the inconvenience caused. The branch manager sighed deeply and apologized again. Then, he grabbed David's head and forced him to apologize. I understand how you must feel, madam. It's only natural you wouldn't want to entrust your significant funds to a bank that employs such a person. If you wish to cancel the accounts, I will arrange it. I'm no longer his wife. If you agree to one condition, I will reconsider the cancellation. The two of them looked up, hopeful. It was a favorable proposal for the branch manager, but the worst possible for David. If you fire David Johnson here, I will continue to do business with this bank. What? That is, of course, expected. I was already planning to dismiss him. It seemed that the branch manager had already intended to do so. David initially looked confused, but his face slowly turned red. As he was about to say something, another bank employee approached us. Excuse me, Ms. Johnson, your father has arrived. I had asked the branch manager to let my father in, and David, thwarted, closed his mouth in dissatisfaction. Wait, why even me? What? Mom? Sorry to have kept you waiting. My father entered, firmly holding my mother-in-law's arm. Seeing me, my mother-in-law glared at me fiercely. This is your doing. What are you thinking? Doing such a thing to a mother, even if by marriage, I will never forgive you. Be quiet. When my mother-in-law started to shout, my father, with an even more intimidating look, scolded her sharply. Startled, not only my mother-in-law but also David gasped and fell silent. I know you've been harassing my daughter. Calling her for errands, making her carry heavy things. And then saying out loud that you prefer your lover, Maggie, over her. And my son-in-law, David, not only fails to defend her but laughs, leaving their child to stand up for her. What does that mean? My father's voice of anger echoed through the bank. David tried to intervene but stopped when glared at by my father. And it has been confirmed that Maggie Hill was the person who hit Lindsay. She has already been arrested by the police. No way, Maggie doing such a thing. What are you surprised about? You are the main culprit. Father scolded her again. Meanwhile, David, apparently unaware, stood frozen, uttering, "What? You and your son are the worst. Lindsay, let's go." Yes. With that, I followed my father outside. The branch manager followed us, repeatedly apologizing. Thinking that I could perhaps continue the contract with this branch manager. I heard loud voices arguing behind us. It seemed that David and my mother-in-law were blaming each other. The voices could be heard outside. And I could see the customers and other bank employees whispering among themselves. So, what we heard earlier is true. Everything went according to plan. Yes. They reacted just as we expected, which helped a lot. We executed our plan perfectly and left the bank laughing boldly. As a result, David was safely fired. Thanks to the police conducting a thorough investigation, Maggie Hill will receive a prison sentence. It also came to light that my mother-in-law had instigated Maggie to stage a hit and run to eliminate me, leading to her being taken away by the police as well after my father-in-law divorced her. Mom, Grandpa, welcome back. We're home. Thank you for looking after Alex, father-in-law. It's nothing. It looks like you settled everything nicely. After confronting David and others at the bank, I went to pick up Alex, whom I had left in my father-in-law's care. He also helped a lot this time. He found evidence that my mother-in-law was instigating Maggie and a note detailing plans to eliminate me, which he submitted to the police. I thanked him for that, and he responded with a smile, "You did well." Since then, my days have become busier than ever. I was already busy as a board member and expected successor. But now that I have become the president, the responsibilities have grown even larger. Meanwhile, my father started a new company. I've always wanted to start a new company. He was excited to pass on the presidency to me, pushing me to take over the company to get back at David. With both of us busy, my father-in-law has been looking after Alex. It turns out that his business trip was forcefully arranged by my mother-in-law, who had an affair with her boss. He took early retirement and moved into an empty apartment in our building. I'm currently studying about working from home. I plan to have him take on some work eventually. So I've sent someone knowledgeable to train him. He seems very capable, and I'd like him to flourish in the new company. The fathers seem to have really hit it off after this incident, often visiting each other's rooms to drink and chat. On the other hand, David, ousted, has returned to his now empty parental home. Unable to secure a job at another bank due to the rumors spread by my father and me. He's been left unemployable, resorting to paying compensation through debt. Now, he's frantically working part-time, having reached out to us in desperation. But we have collectively ignored him. He was once rumored to be on track to become a branch manager, but has significantly fallen from grace. When I grow up, I want to be like Grandpa. Alex has grown to respect my father even more after this incident, seeing him as a hero who saved us from the dreadful actions of David and my mother-in-law. Then, will you take over Grandpa's legacy someday? Yes. My father beams at Alex's willingness to follow in his footsteps. Determined not to be outdone by such a loving grandparent, I resolve to push even harder. Eventually, both my company and my father's company stabilized. Mom, welcome home. You look tired. Despite being exhausted, I came home to find that my father-in-law had prepared dinner. I helped with cooking today. Is that so? Good job, Alex. I'm looking forward to dinner. As I praised a smiling Alex, my father returned home late. Then, the four of us gathered at the dinner table, sharing a meal and laughter. In stark contrast to our unified family, David and his family had fallen apart. David accumulated debts upon debts, eventually resorting to shady loans. And I heard rumors he ended up on a ship. His parental home was sold to pay off his debts, and my mother-in-law, now homeless, was spotted living under a bridge. By the way, I received an apology letter from Maggie's parents. They're good people, so please read it. If you say so, Father. According to the letter from Maggie's parents, she gave birth in prison. They took custody of the child, and after Maggie's release, They moved far away so she wouldn't rely on them. The letter also contained a deep apology to me. Maggie's parents seem like very good people. I sincerely hope the child grows up to be like them, not their parents. However, with no place to return, Maggie must now confront her sins alone in solitude. Years later, we live untroubled by David's existence, having grown considerably. Did we even have a father, seems to be the prevailing attitude? Though faintly remembered. He is regarded as irrelevant and has effectively been erased from our lives. Much like we have forgotten about them completely. I'll definitely take over Grandpa's company. If that's what you've decided, I won't object. Alex chose to succeed my father's company, a toy company. Starting as a regular employee, Alex quickly became invaluable due to his stream of ideas. At this rate, it might be soon enough to hand over the company to Alex. Smiling, my father contemplates retiring to the countryside once he entrusts the company to Alex. I, too, have found a successor and am vigorously training him. Once he is fully capable, I might consider early retirement to pursue new paths. With these thoughts, I continue to dedicate myself to my role as CEO.